Today we're going to go over Jacob's diagnosis, which is autism. While Elisabeth's diagnosis was really rare and unknown and we had a lot of explaining, autism is not as rare and people understand it a lot more. Though it is a big spectrum of what autism is and how it shows up differently in different people. And so we would like to explain how it shows up in Jacob. We pulled this up right here on Mayo Clinic.
Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, as you might see it written in a lot of places, is a condition related to brain development that impacts how a person perceives and socializes with others, causing problems in social interaction and communication.
I think that we first noticed some symptoms around 18 months.
Which is very, very typical.
Yeah.
18 months is very typical.
Just noticed that he wasn't really saying any words. And about that time is when kids start to say some words. So it was just some of those delays where it's like, there's something fishy. Though it was a really tricky thing because we had just gone through a whole experience of finding out that Elisabeth had special needs. And we were really expecting that the next kid wouldn't, because what she had was extremely rare, and we didn't think that the next kid would have special needs too.
Well, and we also spoke with the geneticist that did Elisabeth's initial microarray testing, and we asked, should we consider having other kids? Is this something that's going to affect future kids if we have more children? And so they did a blood test with me and Travis and Elisabeth and tested all three of us together and determined this was not going to be a problem. Like, it shouldn't be a problem.
Or risk for us to have it.
Or risk. Yeah. So
we were really surprised to see that Jacob was having delayed.
Yeah, it wasn't on our radar.
I will say, though, that discovering that your child has special needs is quite an emotional impact because it means so much about your child's future and your future as well. It was really hard to go through that with Elisabeth and to explain how that went for you with Jacob, because it was interesting going through all that a second time.
With Elisabeth, I struggled emotionally and mentally a lot with Elisabeth. And it was also postpartum, on top of finding out that she was struggling, on top of going to the hospital a lot and doing a lot of doctor's appointments. So with Elisabeth, it was really, really stressful. And I didn't know how to handle it emotionally. And during that time with her, before I had Jacob, I found life coaching. And that is really what saved me. Learning those tools, using those tools, and learning how to support myself emotionally was really a game changer for me. So when it came to Jacob, I was able to utilize those tools. So it significantly reduced the processing time in learning about Jacob's diagnosis and processing, because I feel like I still went through all of the same emotions, because you do go through a grieving period.
Whirlwind of emotions.
Yeah, a whirlwind of emotions, like sadness and anger and what did I do wrong? And is it my fault? What will this mean for my child? And I love my child. And what are we going to do? What is the future going to be like? All of that for Elisabeth took years for me to do. And with Jacob, I was able to do it in 24 to 48 hours because of what I had learned and how I use those tools. And so that was pretty phenomenal. And so I was able to jump right onto the track of, okay, now what are we going to do? And how are we going to help him?
And that's been, I guess, a big starting point for special steps too, was looking for the special steps that he can make and Elisabeth can make, and then Michael as well. This has also it's been interesting to see Michael with having two special needs siblings as well. It's been a challenge in one way because he's a very, very social boy. He wants friends, he wants to talk with friends, and he was really looking forward to having siblings that he could play with together. And so that's something that is a little tricky for him, is that his siblings can't play with him the way that his friends do.
Right. But they have figured out how to play together.
Yes.
And it looks so different. And so having that adjustment for Michael was challenging, but he figured it out, and Elisabeth figured it out, and Jacob figured it out. And so they're able to still connect. And it's really interesting when Michael can look at other like cousins or friends and their siblings and how they interact and actually see a lot of the commonalities that he shares, that they share with other families, and still notice the things that are unique about it, but there are still more things that are common.
Yeah, like funny enough, Michael and Elisabeth actually have a lot of verbal arguments.
They do.
It just looks different. There's a lot less words coming from Elisabeth.
Chews him out.
She does. with one word. It's just ba 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 ba, which I think is bad. But she'll say no, or bad, bad. And Michael's like, you can't say that about me. And then she'll go bad, bad. So they argue just like most siblings.
Yeah.
Though Jacob, it's interesting because Jacob's symptoms are quite different from Elisabeth's symptoms.
Oh, yeah. Because there's
different diagnoses. So let's go over autism. A child or adult with autism spectrum disorder may have problems with social interaction and communication skills, including any of these signs. And first off, I'll just say, yes, like social interaction and communication skills is the biggest difference with Jacob and Elisabeth. Like Elisabeth wants to communicate. She yearns for it. She struggles to be able to say certain words, but she tries and wants to communicate. Jacob didn't even care, like especially when he was younger.
Yeah, he didn't mind so much being in his own world.
Yeah. So, like, here's a symptom: fails to respond to his or her name or appears not to hear at times. Yeah, Jacob definitely was like this. Not anymore though. He's starting to respond to his name. For the past like 6 months or so, maybe 3 months or so, he's been responding to his name.
I feel like it's been longer than that.
Maybe. Yeah, well, I think before that he was responding to sound and I was calling for him, but now it's like his name.
It's pretty consistent.
It's really great. Like, that was a big breakthrough. Resists cuddling and holding and seems to prefer playing alone, retreating into his or her own world. He does like to play alone compared to other kids, but he does not resist cuddling and holding.
He is our only cuddler. Like, I think Michael likes cuddling and Elisabeth likes cuddling.
For a short time.
Yeah, but like Jacob, like, is a cuddler. Yes. And I like it.
It's nice because the other two don't, and so it's a nice balance. Has poor eye contact and lacks facial expression.
That has developed in the years.
Yeah, he's
developing that. Yeah,
his eye contact is pretty good.
It's getting better. Yeah,
and his facial expression is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Doesn't speak or has delayed speech. Yeah, he doesn't really speak. Yet. There's been some very, very rare moments where he has said words intentionally, and they're so rare it's like hard for us to always capture it on the video and stuff like that. And it hasn't been for a while. But
he's on the verge, though. You can tell that he's processing.
Yeah, we feel like he's on the verge.
So, which is the step prior to speaking is the building up the receptive language is the first thing.
Yeah,
and that's happening.
Yep. Can't start a conversation. I keep on going. He doesn't even say words yet, so he doesn't do that. Speaks with an abnormal tone. Sing-song voice. He does have a sing-song voice. Mm-hmm. Even though it's just a bunch of babbling, he is very sing-songy.
Yeah.
It's cute.
And he likes to do it with the piano, specifically.
Yeah. Repeats words or phrases verbatim. He just repeats sounds, certain babbles. Like when he was younger, he would say da, 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 da. And Elisabeth often says mom. So she would always say mom and struggles to say dad. She can do it, but
she does it now.
Jacob has sometimes said mom too, but it's rarely intentional. Yeah. It's just a babbling thing.
He's gonna though. He's gonna.
Yeah, he will. Doesn't appear to understand simple questions or directions. He has gotten a lot better at that. But for a long time, like we'd say, Jacob, go over there, or go pick that up, or come here, and no response. But now, like, it's pretty awesome. We can like give him sometimes 2-step instructions. Like, Jacob, pick up your dirty clothes and put it into the laundry hamper. Mm-hmm. And he'll do it. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to kind of show him first, but then you can tell him to do it, and he'll do it.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's a huge special step.
It's good.
Doesn't express emotions or feelings and appears unaware of others' feelings.
So I feel like that is newer development for him, that he is becoming more expressive and more responsive.
I do think he still is unaware of other people's emotions and feelings.
No, he seems to be quite observant, though. So I'm just not sure what he's processing and all of that, but he is watching people.
Yeah, that's true. Doesn't point at or bring objects to share interest. I feel like that's starting to change. But that has been a big symptom. But I think there's been some instances where he has wanted to bring us over to do something with him, which was huge. It's like he wants me to go play a certain toy or play with something with him.
He did.
That's only been like the past few months that he's done that.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's had some great special steps with that. Inappropriately approaches a social interaction by being passive, aggressive, or disruptive. Yes, I go to a class with him in church, and I have to be there with him. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not there, sometimes he'll go around and just start pushing people's faces.
Yeah.
So he can be aggressive and not think it's aggressive. So there's some things that aren't appropriate yet. Has difficulty recognizing nonverbal cues, such as interpreting other people's facial expressions, body postures, or tone of voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll recognize some tone of voice, but like if you're like being silly, he'll get a smile.
Yeah, I would say he definitely understands that social cue. If you're trying to play with him or engage in something playful or fun, like he sees that and gets excited about it.
But he doesn't often recognize when we're trying to be serious. It's like, no, we need to get you into your pajamas. And he's like, no, it's time to play. So that's tricky. So a child or adult with the autism spectrum disorder may have limited repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities, including any of these signs. Performs repetitive movements such as rocking, spinning, or hand flapping. Yes, hand flapping is a big one. Grant, he does like to flap his hands. Performs activities that could cause self-harm, such as biting or head banging.
He doesn't really do a lot of self-harm, which I'm really
intentionally.
Yeah, no, not intentionally. And I'm really grateful for that. So.
Yeah, but yeah, he still is considered a danger to himself, though, if he's unsupervised, just because he gets into things that he doesn't know are dangerous. Mm-hmm. So, but he does it intentionally self-harm, which is great. Mm-hmm. Develops specific routines or rituals and becomes disturbed at the slightest change. Yeah, I think he was worse before.
Yeah.
Especially at the last place that we lived. Mm-hmm. He gets bored pretty quick. But yeah, if certain things change, like he does have certain rituals, like you're at the house, or if we ever go to someplace new, the first thing he wants to do is he wants to walk the perimeter, and he wants us to be with him. He has to like walk the whole perimeter. And if you keep him from doing some of those things, then he gets pretty frustrated.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like in some other children that I have witnessed with autism, for example, if they get up first thing in the morning and we get dressed, and then we put on our shoes, and then we go eat breakfast, and then we get our backpack and we get ready and go to school. If that routine changes and something is slightly different, then sometimes they can have a really big tantrum or are very emotionally upset about that. And Jacob seems to be quite adaptive in that area, meaning that our schedule can change from day to day, and he seems to be flexible and okay with that. And so in that way, his need for routine seems to be that of a more typically developing child, that there's some more flexibility, but still, as most kids need consistency, he still does need consistency, but it's not so rigid that it's disruptive to his mood.
Well, there's some things that like he cares about, such as like playing the piano, and he has a whole routine of how he wants me to go with him to play the piano. And if I do something differently, it does bother. Like,
right. If he's in his zone,
yeah,
and he's like, I am playing the piano, and he's flipping through the music on the iPad, and I come and flip through the music, he's like, yeah, I don't want you to thrown off my groove.
But it's usually not like that. He's like,
that upsets him. Yeah,
because that's how he communicates, is by screaming or crying.
Or no. No.
Has problems with coordination or has odd movement patterns, such as clumsiness or walking on toes. He does that.
Walk on his toes.
And has odd, stiff, or exaggerated body language. Yeah, he walks on his toes. But he's got decent coordination. Especially when you compare Elisabeth's gait compared to Jacob's gait. Jacob can move a lot smoother than Elisabeth can.
For his age and his development, he could definitely be a little more freer with his movement. I would say he's still a little bit more restricted in some of his abilities as far as his physical movement and his body and walking. And
so I find it interesting. We did this with Elisabeth in another video, and half of the symptoms applied to her. But with Jacob, it seems like almost 90% of these do apply to Jacob.
Many of them, yeah. He's diagnosed with a more severe form of autism.
Yeah. Is fascinated by details of an object, such as the spinning wheels of a toy car, but doesn't understand the overall purpose or function of the object.
I'm not so sure about that one, because this is like a hyper fixation.
He does with phones.
Octaves.
With phones or devices, he's just very focused on the movement, or even books. He was very focused on turning pages, but he didn't care too much about the story.
So he cared more about the mechanics of it.
Yeah, he does get hyperfixated on
he has that kind of mechanic.
Is unusually sensitive to light, sound, or touch. It may be indifferent to pain or temperature.
Yes.
Sound maybe would be the biggest
sound and touch. He doesn't with even with foods or tactile, sensory play, sands, gritty things, sticky things. He doesn't really want to touch it. Doesn't like how it feels.
He does like to cuddle, but sometimes if he's focusing on something and you go to touch him, he'll just move your hand away.
Yeah, he's oh, yeah. So he is sensitive to that. I do think he is sensitive to sounds.
Doesn't engage in imitative or make-believe play. This is changing. And we have it on video.
Yeah.
Where when he does pretend play. Sometimes.
He's starting to do stuff with the phone too. He'll get up and be
he'll do fucking
hello. And then I'll be on a banana or on something else.
It's he's pretending with us.
He's pretending.
So this is a new special step.
Yeah.
He's starting to do that. So that's why it's fun to go through these and haha, he used to be this way, but not anymore. Fixates on an object or an activity with abnormal intensity or focus. Yeah.
Yeah, very focused. But just on a few things, a few specific things.
Has specific food preferences, such as eating only a few foods or refusing foods with a certain texture. Not as much as our other kids.
No, Jacob's been a pretty good eater.
Michael might be our pickiest eater.
But we've also really tried to not introduce a lot of processed foods for Jacob. And I think that's been a game changer for him.
Yeah, that has helped. I think that's one of the reasons why he's made so many special steps.
Yeah.
Is because we're focusing a lot on diet and health, whole foods, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference in his
mood and in his processing time, and
also exercise and going to the park.
Kept him very
physical therapy. We've had therapies and others come and help, but we've also done a lot of that on our own as parents. We just know that good eating, exercise, sleep is even more important for kids with special needs. It says, as they mature, some children with autism spectrum disorder become more engaged with others and show fewer disturbances in behavior. And that's stuff that we're seeing. Some, usually those with the least severe problems, eventually may lead normal or near normal lives. Others, however, continue to have difficulty with language or social skills, and the teen years can bring worse behavioral and emotional problems.
Probably due to puberty, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Kids just being bigger. So we really don't know what lies in the future with Jacob, but we are hopeful that he will be in the group that will have the least, that will be able to lead a normal or somewhat normal life.
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of the aiming for special steps and focusing on what our children can do and what they're learning to do. Just that outlook on life has changed everything. I went to a practitioner several years ago, and that was their philosophy from the ground up was, what can your child do? Tell me what they can do. and we're going to go from there, and we're going to build on that. And that really flipped things on its head for me, because it's like, yeah, why am I focusing on all the things that he can't do? But a lot of the things that we talk about today and the forms that we fill out when we go to the doctor and the hospital are all focused on what our kids are lacking. And that frame of mind was not benefiting me. It was not benefiting my children. And so as we are focusing on our special steps, that energy feeds into our kids, and they can feel it and we can feel it. And so I feel like that outlook alone is going to be transformative for our family. It's kind of synergistic. Like, I can't put my finger on it, but I can feel that it makes a difference. And so...
And part of that is documenting the progress too.
Yeah.
Like a while back, we did a 6-month evaluation where we reviewed their progress, and we're going to do that again in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And so it's all part in that process of that forward momentum of, breaking through barriers, and reaching milestones you didn't even know you could reach.
Right. Or that nobody thought that they could. And so that is what's super exciting, to encourage them to break through the barriers that no one thought they could. And all of our kids. That's really exciting. That's what we're focusing for. And that's why I have a lot of hope. All of our children will have very fantastic lives as they grow up, and will continue to just shine.
So this has been the video of Jacob's diagnosis. We recently made one with Elisabeth's diagnosis, and we're also going to have one with Elisabeth's story.
Just because it's a little more unique, because her diagnosis is unique, and she was our first experience with special needs.
Yeah, so those will all be related, and you'll see that one coming up soon. But thank you for following along with us, and go ahead and put in the comments what special steps you have reached or are currently working on, because we care about what you're going through as well. So thank you for being on this journey with us. Anyway, keep having special steps.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.